Union's External Action Service. So I think we are going to be fairly pressed for time. You do have headsets for translation. You also have the opportunity to ask Slido questions. We'll also be taking some questions from the audience, but I think we would like to just jump into the discussion. There's been a lot happening between Serbia and Kosovo of late, in particular around this question of whether there will be some kind of a land swap between Kosovo and Serbia to resolve these long-standing issues between the two countries. So I thought maybe we would start with you, Mr. Vučić, on this question. It seemed to have died at Berlin. That was the impression that many people had in Berlin at the end of that summit. Is it dead? And if not,
first of all, thank you for having us here, and wanted to say, if you allow me, that wherever we go and whenever we have these kind of panels, the only issue is whether it's going to be a division of Kosovo, either land swap or whatever you call it.
Border correction, I think it's the name.
And no one's asking us whether we're going to reach a settlement, whether we're going to reach an arrangement that will fix the relationship between Serbs and Albanians, and whether we're going to do something for ourselves, which means that it's more important what we do for some other people and for some other nations. Question, or it's okay that the Germans, Americans, Russians and all the others should be interested in that issue, but it's the issue of the biggest significance for us. We couldn't do it, we didn't do, and the situation is not a very best one, and if you ask me about possible perspectives, I'm very much pessimistic, which is well known, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going, and all of us are not going to do our best to keep the peace, stability and tranquility within the region, and at the same time trying to find a possible solution. Our problem was that even before we started delivering any kind of motions, any kind of proposals, we were condemned by almost an entire international community. Everybody wanted to see a sort of solution they were prepared to, and no one was asking us. For Mr. Taci, entire Kosovo belongs to Kosovo Albanians or to Kosovar people, or that's an independent state. According to the Serbian constitution, entire Kosovo belongs to Serbia, and the world is split, absolutely split. Half of the world have already recognized Kosovo's independence, half of the world haven't recognized so far, and there is no further intention of doing so. And it means that we need to find a solution. If the political situation today is that bad that we cannot do it, some other people, some more responsible people will have to do it in the future. I have no doubt. And I hope that there would be some more courageous people, not only in Belgrade or Priština, but also in the world to accept compromising solutions, not solutions that they would be in favor of. And that's it. And I think that's the most important message. We need to find that solution, and it has to be a solution in which both sides
nešto malo popuste. Ne može biti da se kaže vi Srbi sad morate da priznate kosovsku nezavisnost. To se neće desiti, to tako ne funkcioniše. Moramo praviti ustupke. To je nešto što treba da rješavamo na drugačiji način i meni je drago što sam ovdje sa ovim ljudima, sa Anđelinom, sa Milom i sa gospodinom Tačijem. Nisam rekao Milo zato što ne poštujem gospodina Đukanovića, već zato što je Milo nama bliži. Zato sam pomenuo samo prvo njegovo ime, odnosno ime, a ne prezime. Jako mi je drago da pozdravim Metija jer je on radio sa nama i to naporno na tome da postignemo briselski sporazum. To se desilo prije 6 godina. Hvala vam mnogo, izvinjam se što sam oduzeo vaše vrijeme. Hvala vam i treba da pomenem da će neki govornici govoriti na njihovom jeziku. Imate slušalice, vjerujem da je kanal za albanski 1 i 2. Gospodine Tači, da vas pitam. Gospodin Vučić je rekao da mora da bude kompromisa. Ja sam mu rekao da govori na engleskom, a ne na albanskom. Govorite vi koji god jezik hoćete i koji vam odgovara, nije problem. Ono što ja želim da pitam jeste sljedeće. Gospodin Vučić je rekao da ima mnogo podjela, čak i u vašim zemljama, i u vašoj zemlji, gospodine Tači, su podijeljena mišljenja.
How are you going to break this impasse? How do you see the path forward? You have this meeting scheduled for Paris early next month. What needs to happen in the coming weeks for there to be real progress here?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here for the first time in this forum and speaking on behalf of Kosovo. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here with Angelina, with Mr. Vučić, with Milo. I would like also to thank Baroness Ashton for her contribution in reaching an agreement in 2013 in Brussels between Kosovo and Serbia. What I would like to stress immediately is that we are into a marathon process of dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. In reality, this process is now in crisis, which comes from unnecessary conditions in this dialogue process, which brings an opportunity for a final agreement between the state of Kosovo and Serbia. What is really important and encouraging is that in Kosovo, more than 70% of the citizens want to have dialogue and to reach a final agreement between Kosovo and Serbia. Of course, there are divergent opinions, just like in Serbia, but the objective is the same, reaching, or the possibility of reaching an agreement, a comprehensive agreement between Kosovo and Serbia that will close all open issues between Kosovo and Serbia, an agreement which would be a final one, legally binding, internationally legally binding, that will preserve and further cultivate multi-ethnic character and reality of our societies, of our countries. Of course, no borders along ethnic lines, and that will be concluded with mutual recognition. I know that the possibility of reaching just such an agreement will bring more peace and stability in the whole of Western Balkans, will open a safe way for, even for Bosnia and Herzegovina, for a safe European perspective. At the same time, for my country, this agreement would also bring recognition by 5 EU member states that have not recognized Kosovo yet, among others Slovakia as well, and would open a safe way for Kosovo to become NATO and EU, but also of the United Nations. But to reach this agreement, of course, we require even bigger unity between United States, Germany, France, Italy, Great Britain, and Italy, and coordination between them, as we've seen in the past, coordination between EU institutions and the United States of America. In Berlin, we could have had more progress. I hope that in days and weeks that remain to prepare for the Paris meeting will be decisive for a positive turn in this process and for an agreement for which we have worked very hard. I believe that this agreement can be reached within this year, 2019. I said at the beginning that there can be no dialogue if we condition the process, which is now Serbia doing. But also institutions of Kosovo should not aspire to put obstacles. The tariffs were a result of aggressive behavior of Serbia, I could say, especially obstacles on membership of Kosovo in UNESCO and Interpol. Therefore, I believe that in coming weeks we will create a more positive environment to overcome these obstacles that we have in front of us, to continue the dialogue, and the Paris summit can be a real opportunity to continue the dialogue with concrete steps towards finalization in a very near future, in coming months, for an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia. The objective is greater than the obstacles that we face, which are nothing more than daily politics.
This is the real stumbling block in Belgrade's view to pushing this process forward.
It's not in Belgrade. I wanted to say a few words, and I think that everybody will understand that. As I told you at the beginning, the territory of Kosovo, from Hashim Tači's point of view, and from, let's say, Albanian population in Kosovo, belongs to Kosovo people and to it's a Kosovo independent state. According to our constitution, Kosovo territory belongs to Serbia entirely. And he said that they had to impose tariffs against Serbia because of our aggressive behavior. And then he explained what that aggressive behavior was. And it was all about that we were doing our job. And our job was to fight against their membership within Interpol and UNESCO, because we don't recognize and we don't see Kosovo as an independent state, which is very normal. We did nothing against them aggressively. We did nothing to put in jeopardy Kosovo-Albanian people. We did absolutely nothing to harm themselves in any way. The only issue is that we don't agree with them on the status of Kosovo. Full stop. That was Serbia's aggressive behavior. And I'm very glad that I heard that as a confirmation in a way from Hashim Tači today. And what happened after that? They imposed tariffs against Serbia of 100%. And I still remember Hashim Tači was against that first night, second night after that, saying to me, okay, we'll remove it very soon. Now it's 7 months, and we lost 300 million euros so far. We lost our market, and it's absolutely against CEFTA agreement that Kosovo signed together with Belgrade and with all the others from the Western Balkans in 2006. And let me just explain something. In 2008, they proclaimed their independence, 2 years after they signed CEFTA agreement. Even in 2008 and 2009, Serbia didn't want to break trade relationship with Priština, and we didn't impose any kind of tariffs, any kind of sanctions against Priština. We did nothing at all. And they were doing these tariff issues 13 years after that, just because they felt embarrassed, because they thought that Serbia would have recognized or supported their independence, which has never been the case, and we have never ever discussed that in that form.
Right, but I mean, assuming, coming back to my question, if Kosovo does agree, and I'll let you respond in a moment, Mr. Taci, but if Kosovo does agree to drop the tariffs, how long would it take to restart these talks and to really come to a comprehensive
We are ready
solution?
to start talking immediately. We are ready.
And how long
to
would
start.
it take to get an agreement once you restart them?
I don't know. Who can tell you that?
Well, you could. You're the
I
main
can.
negotiator.
I cannot. I can tell you that we are ready to start negotiating immediately, which I was saying to my public thousands of times. The problem is that when you come to Belgrade, you see that we are in a way lowering the expectations of our people, saying what is happening in Kosovo, that we'll have to do a lot of concessions, which is not the case in Priština at all. They say to their people, it's just a matter of time when Serbia will recognize us, and that's it.
Well,
Which
let's
is,
let
once again,
Mr. Taci
not
respond to
going
that,
to happen
but
that way.
and just
Yes.
another question connected to it. Isn't this really the core of the problem, that you end up mired in these details? It turns into a he said, she said, and you're unable to get to the larger picture because you're talking about what happened in 2006 instead of talking about what needs to happen in 2019.
They broke that what
Okay,
happened
Neil,
even in
что-
2006.
Nejedek, što je mi
Anyway, we are late, and I wouldn't like to go back in the past. But with the 2013 agreement that we together signed in Brussels, it says that Serbia will not be an obstacle for Kosovo for membership in international organizations. And of course, the actions in UNESCO and then in Interpol were not European in their spirit. Regarding the tariff again, I know that Vučić doesn't really care. I know that he lost a few million euros, but actually politically he is happy because he has gained. Nevertheless, I hope that we will have a more creative engagement in coming days and in coming weeks, I hope, and that the dialogue will restart. Otherwise, conditioning in this process is only a justification not to continue the dialogue. I know that also in Serbia want this process to move ahead for the sake of their European perspective, but I also know that this crisis in the dialogue is a price that both Kosovo and Serbia pay, and perhaps also for the whole region.
And that was something that I refused, and Kathy can still remember here. And that's a huge difference, UNESCO and EU path. And it has nothing in common with each other. And just to say one more word,
international
speaking about these
organizations.
tariffs, you know, I'm not that big politician as all the others here are. They always have this wider picture, you know, US, Germany, France, European Union. No.
Russia.
Russia, whatever you call it. I'm interested in those millions that belong to Serbian people. And that's why I'm very keen on to earn that money that our people have deserved, and that's it. Just leave those tariffs and we'll carry on with any kind of negotiations you want.
Mr. Đukanović, I'd like to come to you on this question. You obviously have a front row seat to all of this. You know the actors very well. Your country also has a very important strategic interest in seeing a resolution to this. How do you see the way forward? What would you tell the European Union to do here? What needs to happen? It seems, as I said before, that people are really mired in the nitty-gritty here. They're talking about what happened years ago, the Brussels agreements and all these things, which are no doubt very important, but it seems to be impeding substantive progress on this. What are you telling the EU to do here? And what are you telling Mr. Thaci and Mr. Vučić?
Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to be a guest with my dear friends, President Vučić and President Thaci and Angelina. And thank you for confirming in this way that you recognize the regional and broader dimension of this problem and make it different from the dimension that would be just a situation where two countries have certain bilateral relations unsolved. Because this is an issue that actually is much beyond the interests of Serbia and Kosovo only. I can confirm that as a neighbor with good intentions, as somebody who has been involved in regional politics for 30 years. I do know very well the historical dimension of this problem, and I do know how burdening this is, not only for Serbia and Kosovo, but for the entire region. This history of the relations between Serbia and Kosovo and Serbs and Albanians is burdening the region. That's why I think, and I dare say, regardless of the inflation and the abuse of this word, I dare say that it is of historical importance, and it is a historical contribution of both Mr. Thaci and Mr. Vučić that they have decided to start a dialogue about this. I respect that much more than we could conclude from their dialogue today or the interpretations of those situations that we can hear in the last couple of months. So, President Vučić and President Thaci said what are the perceptions in the public in both of these countries about this. And both of them said that this issue cannot be solved unilaterally. This is a bilateral issue, and it has to be solved by compromise, by respecting the interests of both sides, both parties. But before that, it is very important that we understand that this question and issue has to be solved in this time now, and that it has to be dealt with from the starting points that respect the reality and all the things that have happened in the meantime. Maybe Mr. Vučić will not imply this, and I don't expect him to, but the very fact that he is at the table shows that he is willing to discuss the long-term solution between Serbia and Kosovo. If he didn't want to be at that table, he would keep repeating that Kosovo is a part of Serbia because that is defined in the constitution. And I'm telling you this as somebody who has been informed about this problem and knows the details of this problem. And I remember what was happening in 2007 and 2008. Many theorists in the international law said that at that time the solution was not in line with international law, but I think that life has shown us that you have to respect not only international law, but also certain circumstances that stem from the time of former Yugoslavia, and that continued to be in place after Serbia and Montenegro remained in one country, and particularly after they split, and in the period after Mr. Vučić came to power. And all these things are living today. So these are the circumstances that have to lead you to be sober in all of this, to have a very vigilant attitude and not to repeat things from the past. So I think that now we are in a quite critical moment. This issue can be discussed in line with the expectations of the domestic publics in Kosovo and in Serbia. But this is the dead end. This is how we cannot reach the solution. We do have experience from the 90s in the territory of former Yugoslavia. That's how the presidents of former Yugoslav republics discussed. They would meet and they would send messages to their domestic audience, the public in their countries, and that led to the war. So we have the experience, and we have to treat this question as a bilateral agreement, but also the question that is important for regional stability and for Europe. And I really hope that Mr. Vučić and Mr. Taci will continue the dialogue as they started it. And it seems to me that it is the most important thing today to continue the dialogue, to be back at the table, and we discussed this in Berlin, and I hope they will continue discussing this and continue the dialogue in Paris. I hope that it would be possible to overcome the problems that actually put the presidents off the table. And I think that there are solutions that can be reached. We don't have to find a solution for every single consequence of the activities that happened in the meantime. I think we could put a moratorium and suspend certain things, certain solutions for certain period, and then use that time to reach final solution that would make the obstacles pointless. And I think that it is important that Europe recognizes its huge responsibility in this question. This is par excellence security issue for Europe. And Europe is here with full rights.
I'd also like to take a couple of audience questions, so if you have questions, prepare them now, and I'll come to you in a moment.
Okay.
As Mr. Đukanović just said, Ms. Eichhorst, this process is now at a dead end. This dialogue was supposed to improve the situation. It seems to have escalated things. Where has the EU gone wrong here? How has the EU, which is supposed to be functioning in this mediator role, bungled this process to such a degree that we have this paralysis now?
Thank you, Matthew, and good afternoon to all. I'm really happy to be in this conversation. This question you pose now, the way you put it, I don't think this is what President Đukanović was actually saying, that we have come to a dead end, but perhaps yes. I don't see it like this at all. I think the very fact that both presidents are here on the podium with you and that this conversation continues shows that there is not only the effort and the courage, as President Đukanović did say, the courage to negotiate, because it's far more difficult to negotiate yourself through very, very important issues. For some people, these are details, but I know for the two parties, these are crucial issues that have been negotiated and still need to be negotiated. And I want to just frame that back again, also led to your first question, because the framing is very important. Here are two parties who want to resolve all outstanding issues. And they want to come to a final agreement, a comprehensive agreement, resolving all the issues. That is not just about what is between the two parties, but this also has an enormous potential resonating effect on the region as a whole, and therefore I am glad that we have the President of Montenegro here. It is important all the leaders carry, and they see also this important. I saw that very clearly in Berlin, where all the leaders were around the table. They see the importance for what the possible effect could be of having a final agreement between Belgrade and Pristina. And then there is the whole European Union framework. We are discussing today, yesterday, tomorrow, the strategic importance of enlargement as a whole, of consolidation, unification, integration of the European Union. And that I can say as an EU official. I'm not talking about the different positions of different member states. I say as European Union as a whole, this is of crucial importance for us. So we will continue. We are not a mediator, we are a facilitator. And that really means, first and foremost, this dialogue is held by the two parties.
But
and they are the ones who define. They are the ones who define where they feel their landing zone will be, where they feel they have a win-win. And for me, it's a win-win-win-win-win-win, because it's just for all the elements I mentioned. And this is really for them
Absolutely, and I think one of those many wins you mentioned would be accession to the European Union, and if that is not officially on the table, which it is not at the moment, what leverage does the EU really have in this question?
The European perspective has been confirmed by all 28 European
Well, the perspective
unions.
is there, but it's not official yet that they're on their way into
But
the
we are
EU.
working towards this. We are working towards this.
I'd like to go to the audience for a question. I think Lady Ashton has a question, somebody who's been working towards EU accession and other questions surrounding the region for some time. Lady Ashton?
Thank you. Can I just say to the presidents of Serbia and Kosovo that it was one of the greatest privileges of my life to work with you, not to help you, but to help the people that you represent. And for anyone who doesn't know, these two presidents, who were then not presidents, behaved in a statesmanlike way that was quite extraordinary. And I pay enormous tribute to you and to the teams that worked with you, because you did something that was considered impossible to do. So it sort of breaks my heart when I listen to where we've got to in terms of the argument. Because we always knew after the first agreement that the second and third and fourth would be more difficult. The first was bad enough, but the rest was going to be hard to do. And I have complete and utter faith that you, with the people that serve with you in your governments, are the answer to this problem. I suspect for President Đukanović, his frustration is partly the knowledge that you can do it, and you can do it, and you have to do it. So my question is this. In this room, there are people who want you to succeed. Angelina above everyone. How do we help you? What are the things that now would make a difference? Because it's not just about whether member states open accession talks, etc., etc. It's about practical ways in which we can help you build the confidence in the people you represent that you can do it, and give you the space to have the conversations that will get you there, that frankly, I absolutely know that you can do.
Thank you. I would like to take a couple of questions. We're running out of time, so I'll have to collect them. If we have a microphone here, I think the gentleman Christian Verschütz from the ORF Austrian television.
Thank you very much. I'm the Balkan correspondent of the Austrian television. I would like to ask a question the other way around. If you look at the implementation of the Brussels agreement and a whole agreement on normalization of the relationship between Kosovo and Serbia, where are you standing? I mean, we have this flag questions like the question of customs and the Serbs community in Kosovo, but what was reached so far? I mean, you meet each other also when you have no cameras, when you are not only talking about other issues. Where are we standing in this overall agreement and the kind of reconciliation between the two peoples?
Thank you very much. I would like to take another question. We'll just collect them. Jonathan Isle from Rusi here in the second row. Just briefly, Jonathan, if you would.
Yes, indeed, very briefly. Jonathan Isle from Rusi. My question is to the President of Serbia, I think, primarily. And you said that you don't want to go into grand politics this afternoon, but let me ask you about Russia and the latest visit of President Putin to Serbia. How do you see the role of Russia in the region? Do you think it is a useful sort of contributor to regional stability? And do you think it will enhance your integration in Europe?
Okay, thank you. And a last question to Milan Dic in the third row back there from the German Council on Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Matt. Not easy to be a moderator here. I have a question about the high rep of the EU and what EU can change as the baton will be passed from Federica Mogherini to the next high representative. What would President of Serbia and Kosovo give as a one lesson learned or advice to the next high rep to do differently? Personally, I think that the whole dialogue after Cathy Ashton passed the baton to Federica Mogherini was neglected. Maybe a question to Angelina Igors would be how many people actually in your unit deal with the dialogue? And if I may, to President Thaçi, there is a claim that you wish to have a failure in Paris because you want to go to snap elections. And actually it's not about you, but about your Prime Minister Haradinaj, who is so popular because of the tariffs, that he cannot give up the tariffs before the snap elections. Therefore, the Paris will be failure, and the problem is in domestic politics of Kosovo. What do you have to say on that?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're going to take an answer maybe from one person for each question because we are running out of time. What was achieved so far? Mr. Taci, do you want to take that question? Yes. What has actually been achieved in these long-running talks, both the
2013 agreement 2013 agreement had extraordinary effect on our relations. There was integration, territorial but also societal, of the Serb community in Kosovo, in the institutions and the society of Kosovo, in northern part of Kosovo, but in the whole territory of Kosovo. We have integration in the judiciary, police, freedom of movement of people and goods, multi-ethnic police and custom officers along the border between Kosovo and Serbia, and removing of the barricades that were in the northern part of Kosovo. There are no riots, there are no inter-ethnic problems. For the first time we had elections, general and local, where Serbian community participated. I would like to express my appreciation for President Vučić, who visited them and convinced them to participate in the electoral process that was organized according to the laws of Kosovo. Of course, on the other hand, there are other things that remain to be implemented further on both sides. Kosovo has to implement the agreement on association to establish it according to Kosovo Constitution and courts and the verdict of the Kosovo Constitutional Court. It is very important that we always had the will to make this happen. Unfortunately, the Srpska lista, Serbian politicians in Kosovo, has not allowed people to become part of the process and write the status of the association, the statute of the association. On the Serbian side, they need to work much more on the IBM, on the energy agreement and other agreements that are important. Regarding developments in Kosovo, I said more than 70% of the citizens want dialogue and an agreement because they all want to move faster towards NATO and the EU. They care more about this than the daily politics. Kosovo leadership wants dialogue, and this is why we have established state delegation for the dialogue in the Kosovo Parliament, and we have full unity on this, functional unity on dialogue. The citizens of Kosovo want dialogue because they want that an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia will strengthen the state integration and economic development, for investments in Kosovo, better well-being and better life. The way we have remained isolated without visa liberalization by EU, it's a situation that seeks urgent solution, not a solution that goes through Belgrade, but a solution within EU institutions, building good neighborly relations, and this is why I hope and I work to reach this objective. There are a lot of skeptics and critics, but the justice is on our side.
Of Russia, Putin, it's always the elephant or the bear in the room when it comes to the region. You heard the question, what role is Russia playing in all of this?
No, it's not. It's always a question for me and for Serbia, because we are suspect of, and for something that I don't get it, to tell you the truth, we have a good relationship with Russia, that's it. And we will have a very good relationship with Russia. And we are on EU path, which I always emphasize when I meet Vladimir Putin, which many of your European leaders forget when they see him. And just wanted to tell you that I have one story for everybody.
Quick story, please.
And that's it. Serbia is an independent country on its EU path that will preserve good relationship with Russia. I wanted to go back to Cathy Ashton's words and to the question of Christian Vershets. You see, everything that Hashim Thaçi was mentioning, it was all about everything that Serbs and Serbia did. We fulfilled all our obligations. I have Brussels agreement here. 100% fulfilled from Serbian side. 100%. And there was only one obligation from Kosovo, let's say, or Priština side, to form Serb community, to form Serb association. So far, it didn't happen. It's only 6 years that we signed that agreement. And I'm saying this just for all the others that would like to know who acted in a reliable and responsible way. And I don't play any kind of blame games, because I'm ready to carry on our dialogue, our talks with Hashim, with whomever they want, because it is very crucial for us, as Cathy said, reaching an agreement. And I don't want to be and to present the country which would always be a sort of suspect of international community, and a country that will ruin a sort of peace, and everybody else would be an angels and saints, and Serbs always devils, you know, which is not true at all, and I'm fed up with this. And we delivered on everything, and there is no one in this room that can say, including Hashim, including anybody else, that there is something that we didn't fulfill so far. But the situation in the field, it's very difficult. It's getting more and more complicated. Okay. I just hope that even today's discussion will help us out to maintain peace and to keep us working much harder in the future in attempting to reach a solution of our problems.
Mr. Thaçi, I think I have to obligated to let you respond to that briefly.
Very short.
For the sake of truth, Serbia did not implement the agreement on the energy, agreement on IBM, and has prevented opening the bridge in Mitrovica to bring the city together and the people of the city together. Regarding the association of the Serb majority municipalities, Priština is partly responsible. Why? Because we've established a managing team, which according to the agreement was established to draft the statute of the association. The makeup would be representative of the Kosovo Serb community in Kosovo. The statute would be drafted in consultations with Serbia. It has failed intentionally to finalize, to conclude its job. We cannot force anybody to do their job, to do their obligations that come out of this agreement. So the representatives of the Kosovo Serbs in Kosovo must take responsibility for the process. For the present, they are boycotting it, and we cannot impose anything on them.
Mr. Thaçi,
you are on the next panel as well, so you could react on the next panel.
No, I need to react here. Mr. Thaçi has just said that we didn't provide into deeds something on IBM, something on international integrated water management, and that we didn't provide into deeds energy agreement and some other agreements, and bridge Mitrovica bridge. There is nothing about it in this Brussels agreement. Not a single word. There is one word. It's item 13. Discussions on energy and telecoms will be intensified by the two sides. This is the only place where it's mentioned. IBM, Mitrovica bridge are not mentioned in this Brussels arrangement. I wanted to tell you something, speaking about Serb community.
Last sentence.
He said that 2 days ago that he is not going to accept Serb association, although he signed it.
Right.
And he changed his mind. He signed it, and now he changed his mind. That's his public statement.
Okay, I think we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Last word maybe from Ms.
We will
Eichhorst
respect in accordance with the Constitution of Kosovo, laws of Kosovo, and with the decision of Constitutional Court of Kosovo.
Ms. Eichhorst, last comment from you on the way forward here. What have you learned, if anything, over the last several years of what appear to have been fairly fruitless negotiations on this front. And then we do have to go to the next panel.
Nothing
Final word.
fruitless in any dialogue. To the contrary, I think it was very good, and we will continue to keep High Representative Mogherini has this as her priority. It will continue to be, I hope, also for the next High Representative, and it shows why that is important. I do believe, together, as Cassie mentioned, and many friends in the audience, that it is possible. It is possible to reach an agreement. Talks need to resume again, and that's the difficult part of the work. The negotiations need to start.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
And it's not Mogherini's fault.
Exactly.
It's our fault.
A couple of the presidents will be staying. A couple of the panelists will be leaving for the next panel, which will also be focused on the Balkans. We'll need a couple of minutes for that, but I would like to bring out Valerie Hopkins, the Southeast Asia correspondent for the Financial Times, who will moderate the next panel. And a round of applause for the presidents and Ms. Eichhorst. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.